Today on Practical Church Planting, 5 ways to connect college students to your church.
Well, welcome everybody to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches.
Yes.
My name is Brian Androsian. His name is Dylan Dodson, and today we're talking about 5 ways to connect college students to your church.
First of all, welcome back, Brian.
Oh, I'm glad to be back. Thank you so much.
5 ways to connect college students to your church. Now, obviously, the caveat is if you're not near any colleges or universities, this may not be as applicable to you.
Yep.
But even if you're not super close to them, like we're not necessarily super close, you can still do something about it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have college students as part of their ministry, church, and so we're going to talk to you about some ways that you can make that happen.
Yes.
So not in any particular order, except for the last one. Number one way to connect college students to your church is to be relevant to them. Now, we've talked about this in previous episodes, this idea of contextualizing to your target who you're trying to reach.
Yeah.
I'm not saying one way is better than any other way, but, you know, if you are doing if your church does run, your services do run a certain way, you are more likely to attract certain age group demographics than not.
Now, Dylan, I've heard the Bible is relevant to everybody.
It is.
So why do you got to change for them?
It is relevant. The Bible is relevant to everybody in the proper context.
Yes.
You know, if I preach a sermon in Korean, nobody at New City Church will know what I'm saying.
The delivery process isn't necessarily relevant
And here's
to
the thing.
everybody.
There's nothing wrong with singing just hymns with an organ
Yeah.
at all. But most college students, you know, that's not what they're looking for. And you could say, well, it's not about what they're looking for. It's about Jesus, but we're trying to reach them for Jesus. So
Yes.
you can't expect them to want a certain thing. And still, that's just a certain musical style that comes and goes. All of them come and go. And so basically, all we're trying to say is, if you want to reach them, you have to be keeping them in your mind as you're planning your services, your ministries, things that you're doing. Because if it's not relevant, then they won't come.
Yeah, and I think part of that comes with be realistic about what's going on. Like if you are a organ playing church, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but just be realistic about the fact that it's probably not going to attract a lot of younger people. And if you're fine with that, you're fine with that.
Exactly.
You know, there's not necessarily anything wrong with it, but sometimes I think we say we want this thing, but we're not willing to change anything. And that's just sometimes not really
Which is some of the things that we'll talk about in this episode.
Yeah.
But that's very true. Again, no point in getting mad about it if we're not doing things that might actually impact them. So that's number 1, be relevant to them. Number 2, actually recognize them. Like if they're coming, it doesn't matter if there's 1 or 2 of them or a bunch of them, like recognize the fact that they're there. Let them know that you see that they're there, that you care about them, that you're thankful for them to be there. You know, New City Church, we are, just so you know, about 25 minutes away from NC State, which is a large university here in Raleigh. And when we launched, I thought that college students would like New City Church, but I thought it would be too far away, especially because there's a lot of great churches like literally within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why when we started to get college students and why they've stuck around and it's grown and all that sort of thing is that we recognize them. And hearing most of them say, like, you know, the fact that you guys know that we're here and that you speak to us and you go out of your way and you make us feel welcome here, I think it's a big deal. Just say, hey, we see you, that you're here.
Yeah, and I think recognizing it is a huge thing. I mean, we've done, when summer was starting, this past year, we brought all the state students up on stage, right in front of the stage, and kind of gave them a little send-off because most of them were going home for the summer, you know?
Right.
And just doing little things like that where you don't always have to bring them on stage, but acknowledging that they're there, that they're not just another person that's like there, but they're their own group.
Right. And if you're excited for them to be there, let them know you're excited for them to be there. Don't pretend like, oh, you should be coming. Like, again, that might seem like super out of the box, but do it. Recognize them. I guess it doesn't happen everywhere because they said that was one of their big reasons why they came back, because they felt recognized.
And I mean, you know, college students, especially if it's a major university, have pride in where they go. And most likely you only have one major university that's close enough to you. So you probably have the majority coming from one place. And so show some pride with them of the school, you know, show them that you recognize
it. Or
they're all
make fun of
together.
the school in my case.
That's true. That too.
Because my favorite team, Duke University, is not NC State.
It's not them. Yep.
Anyway, number 2, recognize them. Number 3, this is important, go to where they are. So it's not enough that they're just showing up on Sundays or showing up at some event you're doing. It'll help them, this goes back to recognize them, help them feel valued if you actually do things where they are. So again, for us, NC State's about 25 minutes away from our church, but we've done stuff like trivia nights on campus. We've got a couple of community groups that meet on campus, doing things on campus. Again, different campuses are different. Not all campuses everyone can have a car and that sort of thing. But even if they can, going to them again shows them that they care, that you care.
Yeah, I think that's a big one because, like you just said, a lot of people, like especially in our context, what we see is a lot of them don't have cars, especially if they're freshmen. A lot of them don't have cars on campus, so they may never. You know, it's kind of an undertaking to go 20 minutes to church. It's not just hop in the car, you know? So being able to go to them, it's much easier for the students that are actually a part of the church to invite their friends to come to this trivia night or come get free pizza. where then you can meet them and actually start to build a relationship to where then when they're invited on Sunday, they'll actually have some context of where they're going and who they're going to be meeting and be more likely to go.
And it doesn't have to be like you have to create a college ministry.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a church plant, you might not be able to do that. But let's say there's a big game or there's just some big event happening on campus or that has to do with the campus, like sending a couple of people that aren't in college to go so they can meet some non-college students that go to the church. Again, just going to where they are. It doesn't have to be this big organized things, but involving yourself or having people from your church involving yourself and their lives makes them feel like you care, like they're impacted, that other friends can kind of see who these people are. Maybe they can that'll set up a conversation. You never know.
Yeah.
But going to where they are makes a big difference.
Yes,
Not just expecting them to come to your church or to your events, doing stuff for them. So that's number 3. Go to the number 4, where they are. Number 4, invest in them. And what we mean by invest in them is not like, build them up to be leaders. We're talking about financial investment.
Yes. Put your money where your mouth is.
And here's the thing. Let's just be honest in church world. We always say we love to do certain things. We want to do certain things.
Yeah.
Kind of what Jesus says, but you can tell how much we actually care about it when it comes to if we spend any money on it.
Yep.
And that's fine. Look, I get it. Church plants don't have a lot of money, very limited resources, but let's not pretend that college is a big deal if you were to say, yes, we want to reach college students, if there's no financial investment there. It's kind of like the thing, when it comes to church planting, maybe you've experienced you planting a church. Everybody says they want to be involved in church planting, but very few are actually willing to financially invest in it, right? Which means they want to talk about it because it sounds cool, but they don't actually want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And again, if you're not near college students, or if you would like to reach college students, but you're not at a place where you can financially invest or send people, that's okay. Just don't get mad if you're not making inroads because you're not doing what takes necessary to make those inroads.
Yeah, and when we talk about investing money, we're not talking about, hey, you need to overhaul your whole budget to accommodate these few college students. It's a matter of if you're doing something on campus, bring pizza or something. It can be done in an affordable way.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be noticeable if you keep trying to plan all these things and you're not willing to put any money towards it but still expecting everyone to come.
Right.
I think it's going to show.
It's kind of funny, too, because again, it all goes back to the people we're trying to reach. College students are used to getting a lot of free stuff.
True.
And so when you don't ever give them any free stuff or you expect them to pay for the stuff, it shows them that you don't quite understand their stage of life and the other places that they're trying to attract them. And so again, this Sunday night, we had college trivia night on campus. So a few of us went there. We brought some pizza. Not that big of a deal, but it did cost money. It doesn't have to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars every month, but there should be something in your budget, whether it's appreciation or prizes or an event, Sometimes these things cost a little bit of money. And so just being willing to say, we care enough about college students that we're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? Again, if you care about sound, you're going to buy speakers. If you care about chairs for people to sit in, you're going to buy chairs. Like if you actually care enough about it, you will invest in it. If you don't have the money or the time, that is okay. Let's just not get upset about the fact that we're not reaching college students or college students aren't coming if we're not actually doing what it takes to reach them.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a little side tip on this one, but it goes with it, is the way to get college students to show up to things is food.
Yes.
Let's be real. I mean, most of them, they may be just moving out for the first time, their first time living away from home. They're not used to having all these expenses, and a lot of them aren't working, especially if they're full-time students. So food is a big deal. So when we go to campus, we bring food, and that costs money.
And the nice thing about college students is they're not looking for great food.
That's true.
Cheap
they probably
food
don't even want the great food.
Doesn't matter as long as they can be eaten.
Yes.
They do not care. So invest in them financially. And then here's number 5, the biggest one that we would say is that you want to give them significant roles to play.
Yeah.
This is just kind of a tip if you want to reach young people in general. If you want to reach more young people in your church, which if you're watching this, you're probably involved in ministry, you have to give them significant roles to play or they won't show up. And so again, we get so mad that young people are leaving the church and young people aren't stepping up, and the average age of a lead pastor is now 54 and 10 years ago was 44. And it's like, well, part of the reason is we're not letting young people have significant roles of leadership or investments where they can actually make mistakes. So here at New City Church, part of the reason why we have college students coming, even though it's 20, 25 minutes away, is because we're giving them significant roles of leadership. The cool thing, too, about a church plant, here's an advantage you have as a church plant, because it might seem like a lot of times we don't have the money, resources, all these other churches. You're right. We don't either, but we can give them significant roles that other churches wouldn't because they don't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
Right? And so whether it comes to like slide and production or sounds, or our worship leader right now who leads our worship team, sets our lights, does all that stuff, sets the band, all that sort of thing, is a college student.
Yes.
And it says something, because it says we trust in you, so it makes them take more ownership of the church. They're more likely to invite their friends because they're their ownership, but it also shows their friends that, if I come here, like I'm not just like a number, I'm not just like, yay, college students here, like they'll actually give me something to do.
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks ago here at New City Church, our entire band was college students. Yeah. And you might sit there and think, oh, that must mean it wasn't that great. It was totally fine, right? Again, why? Because here's the part of the thing too, because we have significant college students in significant roles of leadership and importance here and doing stuff, they're now inviting their friends to do it with them because their friends know that they have a role to play as well.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you're a freshman, sophomore, whatever in college, you're used to, for the most part, especially in a church world, being the young one, being the one that's kind of just going and not actually having any leadership role. So being able to give them some sort of, and it doesn't mean it needs to be like a paid role by any means. Nope. It's just giving them something significant to do. That's not just a matter of, I don't know, I don't want to say something that's insignificant, but that's not just some minor thing, but actually giving them a reason to show up every week or every few weeks.
Right. I'll say it. I don't mind it. Okay. Holding the door to the front of your space is great.
Yes.
But you can't really mess that up. Yeah. Right. Having them do set lights or do your slides or lead worship or lead in a ministry, like they could mess that up.
Yeah.
But here's the thing too, is a lot of times college students no one's giving them opportunities to do anything. Mm-hmm. So if you give them opportunities, they're going to show up, they're going to invite their friends, and they're actually capable. Like 18, 19, 21, 20, 22, like they're not little kids. So this is a personal pet peeve of mine. So let's not call them kids. They are adults, they're young adults, whatever you want to say. But if you give them something to do, they will actually rise to the occasion. Yeah,
totally. I think it's funny that we look at college students that are in school to be, engineers or these things, but we're like, I don't know if I could trust them to like go on the computer here. It's, let go a little bit, have some faith in them, and it'll do great things.
Like we have a creative team that meets a couple of times a month at New City Church that plans, what our space will look like, graphics or different things for different events. Mm-hmm. And there's like 2 or 3 college students on there.
Yeah.
And in Little City, our kids ministry at New City Church, we've got college students. In our band, we've got college students. We've got college students, Kevin, that sits in on our service planning, significant things. Tomorrow, we're going to have a college student come. We do our sermon base, which we've done a previous episode on that. We'll sit in on how we actually create our community group sermon leader guides.
Yeah.
Giving them something to do, it creates ownership for them, but also shows their friends that we care about you. And this is a big one for me, even bigger than money, that if you actually want to reach college students, you have to give them a reason to be here and give them a reason, an opportunity to grow and develop. Otherwise, they won't come that much.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but we can't get mad about it if we're not going to do what it takes to actually involve them in the life of the church.
And one quick thing before we end is kind of one of the complaints or whatever about millennials. I don't know if college students are still millennials. Millennials are
I don't think
Gen
so
Z, I think is below it.
Yes.
Is that, they're flaky, they're not dependable, stuff like that. But in reality, all people that age want is to belong somewhere.
Yep.
And then I think a lot of people have found that they're some of the most dependable people if they're
I would just say, in our anecdotal experience at New City Church, college students are the least of our problems when it comes to showing up on time and being reliable.
Yeah, totally.
Least. And part of it is they're getting opportunities for the first time, and so they're excited about it. The reality is people in general can be flaky and lazy.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a college student thing, it's a people thing. And so don't hold it against college students. And again, at New City Church, our college students are great. I think part of it is because we've trusted them and they've seen that, and they're really excited about it. Yep. So hey, those are the 5 ways, again, that you can connect more college students to your church, be relevant to them, recognize them, go to where they are, invest in them financially, and give them significant roles to play. If you're not doing those things, it's okay, but let's not get mad at college students for not being connected to the life of our church if we're near a university, if we're not doing what it takes to connect them to the life of our church.
Right.
So hey, if you have any questions about college students or in ministry in general, practicalplanting.com/questions.
That's right.
And we can answer them in a future episode. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Join our Facebook group. We talk about ministry stuff all the time.
Yep.
And until next time, we'll see you on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.